Well, hey, friend, and welcome to the Joyful Movement Show. This is episode 97. We are getting so close to the big 100, my friends, and I am so excited about that. For me, it's a really big milestone for this girl who always thought that she was too shy and didn't have anything valuable to say. It means a lot to me personally to have even started a podcast, never mind get to 100 episodes. So it just really goes to show you what thought work and belief in yourself can do. I do have a special episode planned for number 100, so stay tuned for that. It's coming out on December 22nd. I can't tell you what's happening, but I know you're going to want to catch it. So let's talk about today. I got a good one for you today, too. We're joined by a very special guest, Dawg Hallam. If you're local to me, you definitely know him because he's kind of a legend, and he must be pretty special because he's the first guy I've ever had on the pod. And that wasn't really on purpose. It's just that I tend to steer the content of this show to women because that's what I am, that's what I know, and that's my lived experience. And I really am on a mission to help women see that there's a different life available to them that doesn't require them to obsess over or always be trying to change their bodies. But that's not to say that other genders, including men, don't struggle with these things too. Of course they do. We live in a fat-phobic society that really favors thin people and treats those in larger bodies as less than. So on today's show, Joe is going to share his experience with his body image journey. And like most of the people that I work with, he started dieting around the age of 12 and struggled with his weight ever since. And also, like all of the people I work with, he thought that all his problems would be solved when he reached the so-called ideal or goal weight. But what he found was quite the opposite. Though he received a lot of praise and felt better in some respects, he also felt like he just didn't know himself in a smaller body. And as he'll share with you, he definitely wasn't healthier when he was thinner. Joe came to work with me about 3 months back, and through coaching, he's been able to reach a place of body acceptance where he engages in health-seeking behaviors simply because he wants to and knows that he's worthy of feeling the best that he can without the expectation that his body must change. And that really has set him free from so much negative self-talk, so much self-judgment. So I really hope you enjoy this interview with Joe, and if you resonate with what he shares and also want to get to that place of body acceptance, then please reach out and we'll chat about how coaching can help you too. So let's jump in.
Awesome. So here we are. Is this it? Are we starting?
I'll start.
Okay, you go first. It's your barbecue. Yeah.
Might leave this in.
Yeah. Good blooper reel. Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Joe. Welcome to the Joyful Movement Show. I'm so excited to have you here today as a guest.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Before we start, I want to thank you and your listeners for allowing me on here, because I know this is primarily a woman's or female driven program. So yeah, I just want to thank everybody for taking a chance on me and letting me in this exclusive group. I thought that was really nice.
Well, don't let it go to your head, but you are the first and only male guest I've had on the show.
Yes. Look at me, eh? Well, I should probably check some privilege then in right off the bat. I've never had to lose baby weight ever. So let's just start with that. I've never had to feel the sting of those stupid bumper stickers that say no fat chicks and stuff like that. I think what I'm trying to say is it's a touch easier to be in a heavier body if you're male than if you're female. So I just kind of want to check that to you and your listeners right off the bat, is that I do feel it's a little more, and I don't think that's right. I'm not trying to, I think it's ridiculous, but I do think it's slightly easier to be, hey, big guy, how are you? To be a male in this crazy world that we've experienced. But I still have, struggled since I was a little kid. I can't remember a day where I didn't think about my weight in some way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, thanks for bringing that point forward. I think you're right that living in a society that favors thinness and that is still very patriarchal, it is harder to be a woman in a larger body or just a woman in general, because there's so much pressure on us about our appearance and our bodies. But that is not to say that men don't have these struggles too.
Yeah, and I think that's why I appreciate you having me on, because I think maybe I can share that side of things that sometimes it can be tricky even for a guy like me. So yeah.
So we've been working together for a little while.
Mhm.
I've gotten to know you fairly well, but why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about
Sure.
yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Joe Dawg Hallam. That's what, Joe Dawg is what my nickname started as a little kid because my last name's Hallam, and my childhood friends had trouble saying Hallam, so it turned to Hound. So it was Jo
I never
yeah,
heard that story.
yeah, so it was Joey Hound, and then Hound turned to Dog later on, and Tom Simpson, my buddy Tom Simpson's just shortened it to Dog later, so now I'm Joe Dog anyway, but, yeah, so I've done stand-up comedy for the last probably 5 or 6 years, and I've been involved in pro wrestling and public speaking since 2004-ish. So, yeah, it's been great to be able to share. I super love attention, so that's why it's so great to be here today.
Well, it's great to have you.
Yeah.
And I know this will probably be an entertaining episode as well as very valuable because not only do you have a story to tell, but you bring a lot of humor. I laugh a lot when I'm coaching you,
Good.
which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think, as, like we've talked about talked about this a lot in coaching is that, sometimes you deflect if, like I've always felt kind of heavier or whatever, or felt different, I guess. So, comedy has always been one way for me to be known as the funny guy rather than the tubby guy. Right. So, yeah, so I don't know if that's a healthy response, but it certainly, brings a smile to people's faces and yeah, it makes me feel better to have somebody laugh or smile. So yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
Okay. So take me back in time. A few months. We've been working together, what, about 3 months now, maybe?
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
something like that.
So let's time travel back
Mhm.
to before we started working together, before we started coaching, and tell me what were you struggling with at that time?
Yeah. So, I guess my story is that um, I, I've always been like a food guy. Food's my favorite thing. I don't drink. I don't smoke. Maybe I drive too fast sometimes, but like my only vice is that I super love to eat. It's my favorite thing. So, um, and so I years and years ago, I reached a fairly high weight, and I thought, well, okay, I gotta do some stuff here. So I started really enjoying walking every day, and I didn't have those crazy cravings as much. I was, eating better, as they would say, I guess. And I lost like 100 pounds, and I felt good. I kind of plateaued, which is fine. Like I didn't need to lose anymore. And then I had my wisdom teeth out, oddly enough. I don't know if this was a trigger or just a coincidence, but I had my wisdom teeth out. And right after that, everything started to change. I really started, like, I felt weaker. I couldn't put weight on if I wanted to. I started adding, I even stopped walking as much and just started there was people, my friends were reintroducing themselves to me because they didn't recognize me. They're like, "Hey, how's it going? My name's Eric." And I'm like, "Yeah, hi." And they'd hear my voice out of this, bony body and be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe are you okay?" Like, so anyway, I, my mom was actually at a doctor's appointment and saw this big thing on the wall with symptoms for type 1 diabetes.
Mm.
And she called me. She said, "I think you have every one of these symptoms that's on this little poster here. I think you should get checked." So my legs were locking up in the middle of the night. I couldn't walk on them. Like my toes were pointing up. And so, experience, I had to pee every like hour. And I remember being so thirsty that I put a garden hose in my mouth and just turned it on and just drank for like 3, 4 minutes straight, like
Oh,
just water flow. I was so thirsty. I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I asked a good buddy of mine, Carl Panarisi, that I worked with at at a car dealership, who had type 1 diabetes. And I said, "How did you know that you had type 1?" And he said, same thing. He said, "Oh, I couldn't stop drinking. I was drinking one of those big Brita waters every day at lunch." And I'm
oh.
like, "Oh yeah, that's nothing for me." So he checked my blood sugar, and I was at like 22. So for people at home, like a normal range is like 5 or 6. Like even people who are like 6.5, they'll put you on medications, like, which is crazy to me that the doctor's like, "Oh yeah, you have type 2 diabetes." But anyway, so you're supposed to be like 5 or 6. I was like 22, 23. Went to the hospital, and that's when they said my pancreas didn't work anymore and I had type 1 diabetes. So,
Mm.
shortly after that, they put you on insulin, and that's when the weight really started kind of packing back on. The hard part for me was that after I lost the first 100 pounds, like, before I was diagnosed, I remember being so like, so, I don't know, happy, I guess it seems like the word, but I don't know if that's really true. Like, I guess more of a, it was such a hard work to do this thing that I said, if I ever put this weight back on, I'm going to kill myself. Jump off a bridge. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to kill myself there a year. If you ever put that weight back on.
Mm.
And so to put that value on weight for me was very hard, especially when it started creeping back on as I was, insulin is literally a growth hormone. Like it's designed to open your cells and you absorb whatever you eat. So I'm putting on 10 pounds at a time kind of thing. Right. And I think I had a little bit of, I might've been a little bit depressed or anxious when I was diagnosed too, because it's a chronic illness, right?
Mhm.
So, you kind of binge eat or comfort eat. So yeah, then I, I gained everything back and here I am. I thought and what I'm realizing and working with you is that the problem wasn't so much having the weight on, it was having that value and that thought of you're not worth being alive if you're heavier.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. Now that I've started working with you, it's like to realize it doesn't matter what the scale says. It's that,
You think there's something wrong with you
yeah.
because it says that number.
Yeah. So I mean, now I have a realization and I can't believe how lucky I am, even though I have this, rare chronic illness or whatever that only 1% of people with diabetes have type 1. It's very low. It might be more than, I'm sure it's probably more than 1, but it's definitely very low anyway. But if you look at if you look at the history of the world, however billion of years the world is aged, I was diagnosed here and the invention of insulin was here. So it's like if
Very short time.
yeah, if I was diagnosed even 20, 30 years ago, it was a death sentence. You're dead. And,
Mhm.
your life expectancy was like 3, 4 months. So,
Yeah.
so now realizing that like I have this little electronic pancreas that I get to wear, it could have been way, way worse. And what I'm realizing working with you is that your body and your weight, if you're on a bus trip this is what we talked about last week. If you're on a bus trip in Hawaii and you're obsessed about what the bus looks like and not what the trip looks like, and you're in Hawaii and look at all these beautiful things, then you're missing the point of the bus trip.
Yeah.
And that's what your body is. Your body is the bus. Your body's not the trip. Your body's a bus.
Right.
So your body's just this vessel that gets you through life. And I get to hang out with my son and my wife and have all these great friends and community here in Goddard. And yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what we're learning to piece together is that, and together with Kim, I've worked on my own personal little mantra, which is weight does not measure happiness. So Marcus Stroman is a famous baseball player. He has a mantra that is height doesn't measure heart. And he even sells t-shirts that say HDMH, like height, because he's a little guy, short little guy.
Mhm.
I'm the opposite. I'm a big guy. So I'm trying to realize that weight doesn't measure happiness and that I'm not sick like I was when I was really skinny.
Right.
Like I was having trouble lifting stuff and like I said, my legs were locking up and it was so I before I started working with you, I looked at that time with rose colored glasses. I was like, look, oh,
Mhm.
that was the
Mhm.
skinny guy. That was the Joe. That was the Joe everybody wanted. That was the Joe everybody needed. Look how great he looked. He was
Yeah.
skinny and sick looking. But now I'm realizing no, that yeah, Happy Joe is who I want and who everyone else deserves. So yeah.
Yeah, and you've reframed what health means to you too, right?
Mhm.
Like obviously health can't just be measured by the scale because like you said, you weren't super healthy when you were thin,
Yeah.
but what's changed in your mind as far as how you define health and how would you say things have improved health-wise now having worked on these things?
Yeah. So I think I feel like I'm a lot more in touch with myself. Hey, that sounds kind of dirty. That's not what I mean. I mean I'm not saying
Not
it
that kind of
like
show.
constantly touch myself. That's can't be right. No, that's not what I mean. No, I just when I, when I was we talked about this in the coaching is that when I was a little kid, I used to do this thing when I was trying to fall asleep where I would act like my body was like a factory and my brain would say, okay, legs, how you doing down there? You working out good? And they're like, yeah, we're doing good. And we would communicate and then that's how I would fall asleep. So I had totally forgot about that procedure until we were kind of trying to dig up, what it was like, because I didn't feel fat as a kid. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I did. I was maybe 10 or 11 or whatever. That's when I started to kind of be a little more self-conscious, but I was just like enjoy playing and running and whatever. So when I started kind of bringing back those, uh, then I realized I could do that day to day. Like
Oh.
if I was like, I think, sometimes when I hop up and I walk and I do whatever, like even, oh, I haven't even told Kim this yet. Last week we were, we were talking, about how, like if there was a lineup of bodies and I had to choose, okay, you can have any of those, I would still pick mine because I'm used to mine. I know what mine can do. I can walk, I can do whatever. And on the way home, I didn't tell you this, on the way home, there was, the light was just turning from walk to don't walk. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to run across the street. So I ran across the street and it wasn't like laboring, like it was great. I ran across the street and there was an old fella with a walker. And he said, wow, you could run a lot faster than me. And I was like, wow, like that guy gets it. Like that guy gets it. He's still happy, like just walking around with his little walker. And when he sees somebody like before, I would have been down on myself, like, I don't know if I can even make it across this road because you're too fat or whatever. Uh, but, but yeah, to realize like, I don't need a walker. I can walk and run. I can pick my kid up and I can do whatever. Like those are things that your brain kind of tricks you into appreciating because it's like that. None of that matters. The stuff that you can do doesn't matter. The stuff that you can't do because
Yeah.
you're too heavy. Don't even try because you can't do it. And then I do it and I'm like, oh, I can, you know what I mean? But your brain says, no, don't even try it. You're too heavy. You put it all back and whatever. So yeah. So
Yeah, we're really conditioned to see what's not working and to see our shortcomings,
for
right?
sure.
It's work to retrain your brain to see what is working and what you
Mhm.
are capable of, what you do enjoy,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and we've talked about this in coaching too, is that like the industry that spends the most money on advertising is food,
Mhm.
which I've talked about in my stand up is ridiculous. Like if there's anything in the world that we don't need like a reminder that we need in life, it'd be like if there was commercials for oxygen, like, hey, did you breathe today? Well, come and try oxygen. You'll really love it. It's like we know food is a thing. Like we know we have to eat. Like, are you serious that they're like, food, try it today? I'm like, we don't need what? Like, as if they spend that much money. Like nobody tries to sell you cars more or sell you whatever commercial you see is like, it pales in comparison to people trying to sell you food.
Yeah, but right on the heels of those food commercials are the diet
Yeah.
commercials.
Like you ate too much of that stuff we tried to sell you. You should lose weight because you're not good enough and you're gross looking.
Mhm.
Like, man, yeah. So that's really what we've been working on. And in this program, I had no idea. Like, I I was kind of looking for another weight loss program. I mean, I've kind of
Mhm.
tried. Like, I remember being in Weight Watchers when I was, in public school. Like,
Mhm.
so I thought, okay, great, Kim's gonna help me lose weight. Not realizing that that's not the important thing. The important thing is, like I said about the bus trip, is that it's not about changing the car you're driving. It's about enjoying and maintaining and getting the joy out of the car that you already have.
Mhm.
And that's what my body is a car, I
Mhm.
guess. I don't know if I don't know, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talked about how we talked about this in your last coaching session, the story you just shared about if all the bodies were lined up in a row, that you'd pick yours,
Mhm.
which I'd say is a pretty big transformation from, how you were thinking about your body just a few short months ago when we started working together.
Mhm. Yeah, that was huge for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
like ever since like we were saying, ever since I was a little kid, I thought I have to change. I have to be different.
Mhm.
I can't be what like I have to be skinnier. I have to look like this guy. I have to look like that guy. Whatever. And I kind of had a realization that like if somebody from the black market came to me and said, "Hey,
Mhm.
I see the son you have. Would you like to trade him for this son?" I'd be like, "Are you insane? No, of course not. I have the wife I want, the son I want, the mom and dad that I want, and the brother that I want. I wouldn't trade any of those people." And like, I have a great group of friends too. Like, I mean, if somebody said, "Hey, I know this is your friend, but would you trade him for Wayne Brady or somebody?" I don't know. Maybe Wayne Brady's great. He's probably hilarious. I've seen him on TV, but I'm like, no, I like my buddy Dave or whatever. Like, I don't. So, so to not have myself in that category was kind of heartbreaking, and the realization that
Mm,
that I would have traded me and what I have
mhm,
for something else, that maybe when you hop in that body, you realize like, wow, I super hurt, or I can't do this or I can't do that. Right. So um yeah, to just kind of be able to accept and be like, this is the body that I know what I can do, I know what I can't, and I know how to do it in this
mhm,
body.
mhm,
That was really, yeah, that was a really big breakthrough. And I think that's kind of the, like, for other people out there listening that are trying to, um, maybe they're trying to quote lose weight or whatever, right? Like they have to change their body. Is that it's if you don't have a value of your body, then you're not going to see the worth in
mhm,
wanting to exercise or eat differently or whatever, which maybe you don't even need to do. But for me to come to the realization that I can enjoy going for a walk again, like that was, I don't know, that was really great. Because before, when I like I said, when I lost 100 pounds the first time, it was, maybe it was motivated that I was overweight and I needed to walk, but I forgot that a big part of it was a dopamine release from just walking and enjoying,
mhm,
like,
mhm.
even throwing weights around or working out. It doesn't have to be, that was the big, it's a big, pillar and cornerstone of this program, is that, um, it's not about do stuff to lose weight. Like
Mhm.
every other, like it's, um, yeah, move and exercise for the enjoyment of that, which I didn't think was a thing. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you read a book at school, and then when you go home, you're like, I'm not going to read it. Like, you don't realize you can read for recreation
Right.
until years later and you read, like, I remember the first time I read a book that wasn't assigned by a teacher or by a school. I'm like, oh, I can actually read because it's fun and enjoyable. Like, that's the same with exercises, is that, yeah.
And I know we talked about this not that long ago when you like, now that you've reached this place of body neutrality
Mhm,
and accepting the body that you have and appreciating the vehicle that you're moving through life in, that you're finding yourself being more active
mhm.
and choosing activities for the pure joy of it. You got back to weightlifting and stuff.
Yeah, back to volleyball. And but I remember, even just a year or 2 ago, there was a baseball tournament and I opted out of playing it, and they're like, "Oh, are you injured? You hurt?" I was like, "No, I'm just too fat. I'm not gonna play." And they're like, "Oh, all right." It's like a fun charity tournament. Like, there's no pressure, or there's no,
Mm.
I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. I just don't, yeah, I better not." So, yeah, not realizing that, I think I always viewed, and maybe a bunch of people at home do too, is that if you're doing an activity or movement that you enjoy, then it's probably not enough. That's what your
Right.
brain thinks,
We
is that,
trick you to yeah, if it's not hard and, like, destroying
right.
you, then it can't be enough.
It's like the, Embrace the Suck episode. It's like,
Yeah,
it has to suck, or
yeah,
else it doesn't count.
right.
I think that might have been your either last episode or the episode before, on here, is that it doesn't count. It's like, well, who's counting it? Like,
Right.
what do you mean it
Why
doesn't?
does it what is it counting for
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah,
right?
I
And
I have,
that's because we're only viewing it as a way to burn calories and
right.
shape our body, but if that's taken off the table,
Mhm.
then how do we measure what counts,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, so I think, yeah, like, I super enjoy, yeah, like I said, I played volleyball just, with my buddies, and that was, to me, it wasn't a, like, as I said, I didn't think it counted because I enjoyed it, and
Mhm.
it wasn't sustainable as a weight loss program because I only do it once a week, so you're gonna have to try to find something that you do volleyball well, no, like, anyway. So, yeah, it's crazy that that's how our brain,
Yeah.
my treadmill has a built-in thing that says, "This is
Mhm.
how many calories you've burned." It's like, well, that's, so you're walking, you're enjoying it, you look down and you've burnt an apple's worth of calories, and you're like, "Oh, well, what the heck's the point of this?"
Right.
And not realizing that the point of it is that you could just enjoy it.
Right.
You could just enjoy
It's
moving.
good for your legs, it's
Yeah.
good for your heart, it's good for your mental well-being, right?
Yeah.
But when we break it down to I only burned 100 calories, well,
Mhm.
then, yeah, it hardly seems like worth the effort, but
Yeah, it's like yoga too. Like, I started doing the DDP yoga. He's a wrestler guy that did. That's super good. Like, you feel good and whatever, but if you Google how many calories it burned, then people are like, well, there's no point. Why would you even do that? Like that doesn't get
Mhm.
you. That doesn't get you anything. It's like, well,
Yeah, we have
I
to
don't know.
think beyond the calories and look at
Mhm.
all the other many, many, many benefits of movement. Yeah.
Yeah, the world is a very weight loss driven um society, and yeah, it's I don't know, it's kind of a shame. Kind of a
Mhm,
shame for sure.
mhm,
But
mhm.
yeah, so to have that realization that like this can be me and this can just be like before people used to say, "Hey big guy, how's it going? Hey there big guy, what's going on?" I remember when I started refereeing for wrestling, I remember somebody saying, "I think you might be too big to ref. Like you're going to be bigger than some of the wrestlers." And I took that as like this huge insult, like, "Oh, you're so fat that you can't even referee wrestlers." And now I'm realizing like, well, no, like I I don't know. I feel like maybe my maybe a lot of people do this. I think a lot of us do this out there is that we maybe mind read a little bit. We're like, "Oh,
Mm.
this person means this when they say this." It's like,
Uh-huh,
"Well,
uh-huh.
did they? Or are you just"
Or was it just an off the cuff remark
yeah,
or
like
just,
it was sometimes
something they
it's
shouldn't have even said?
yeah, well, sometimes it's fact based. Like, yeah, I mean, if I'm refereeing guys that are 5'3", I'm going to tower over them, and then, but I mean, hey, if maybe that makes me more of an authority figure because I'm bigger than them,
Mhm,
so I can say, hey, don't do that or whatever, right? So
mhm, mhm.
anyway, yeah, the ever since I remember even yeah, ever since I was a little kid, I've always kind of taken stuff and mind read and been like, oh,
Right.
they meant. I remember we had this. I don't know. It was probably like 9 or 10 or something. We had this meeting in public school where they were like enforcing or just going over the rules of riding the bus to school, and they were like, "Remember, there's no eating on the bus because somebody could choke or something." And I remember the principal like kind of looked at me, and I was like, "They looked at me because they
Uh,
think that I eat on the bus all the time because I'm fatter than anyone else on the bus."
wow.
Like that, no, looking at that now, it's like I thought that was totally rational for the last 20 years or whatever.
Yeah,
Now looking at it, it's like, I can't believe that kid. Like, I just want to grab him and say, kid, like, not everybody thinks you're, oh, and
yeah.
yeah, not everybody thinks you're this fat tub like yeah. So it's funny that she was just like, hey, everyone, make sure not to eat because you could choke. And they're like, she's like, yeah, he's talking to me
Right.
because I bet she thinks I eat all the time. That's all I do. I just eat from morning to night.
That just goes to
Wow.
show how our thoughts, like our
Mhm.
brain can play tricks on us and our thoughts can take over
Yeah.
and we can make a whole story and really make ourselves feel miserable
Yeah.
based on something that wasn't even said. Like you do not know what
Mhm.
that person was thinking or in their mind at that moment.
Well, and that's why hopefully if there's, yeah, anybody kind of listening today, listening to my story, if that's one thing that I can kind of get through to somebody is that yeah, yeah, maybe like sometimes our biggest yeah, our biggest enemy or our biggest critic is what's going on in our brain is that
Mhm.
people aren't calling you big, hey big guy, because you're, because they secretly are laughing at you and thinking that you're,
Mhm.
oh, like that guy's a fat loser or whatever. That's maybe they just think you're a bit you're tall and you're big. Like, hey, big guy. Now when before when somebody said big guy, I was like, oh yeah, they're saying that because of it. But now when somebody says, hey, big guy, what's going on? Now I just think either, okay, well, they forgot my name and they're just calling me big guy, which is fine. Or they're just, yeah, they think I'm big. And I'm like, I am big.
Right.
Like there's so many kids that are little that are like, I can't wait. And I'm like,
Right.
here I am. So
Yeah. And
anyway.
as you change their thoughts about yourself
Mhm.
and, work on your own belief in your worthiness as a human and appreciation of the body that you have and taking care of yourself, then those comments don't carry the same meaning
Yeah.
because they don't mean anything to you.
Mhm.
You've
Yeah.
cleaned up that internal dialogue.
Yeah, I literally went from, like I said, being almost scared of them to now I enjoy them. When
Mhm.
somebody's like, "Hey, what's up, big fella?" I enjoy it. I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." Like people, yeah, it's whatever you put forward kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it was definitely been a journey to not be ashamed of who you are or to try to be. Um, so it's yeah, it's the mind reading thing can really mess with you because you
Mhm.
think everybody that looking at you is thinking, "Hey, there's that fat dude." So, and to realize that that's not the case, and even if that is the case, whatever, here I am. I mean,
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
to be happy with who I am. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just it. I think what I hear you saying is there's no point beating around the bush or trying to cover up the fact like
Mhm.
this is me, this is the body that I'm in.
Yeah,
It's neutral.
I didn't think that like body neutrality could be an option for me, but now to actually enjoy
Mhm.
like all the stuff that and I could be that I'm older, like I'm almost 40 now, right? So
Mhm.
now I'm like, well, this is who I am, and
Yeah.
I'm happy with who I am, and as I said before, this is who I married, and this is the son I
Mhm.
had, and this is me. So it's like, yeah, the acceptance to be not constantly having to lose weight is really awesome. And if it happens, it happens. Sure. But if it doesn't, whatever, I'm happy with where I am. So that's pretty awesome. And I think, do I want to be in a body where people have to reintroduce themselves to me again, like I did before? I don't think so. I like my friends that I have, and I like the people that I've worked all these years to like surround myself with people that I want to be around. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about it, the great support system that you have and all these people that love you for who you are.
Mm.
So it's awesome that you're able to show some of that same love back to yourself and not feel the need to change
Mhm.
to fit in or to receive validation. Okay, so tell me, what are you most looking forward to in the future now that you've done this work? What's available to you now that wasn't before?
Yeah, I think um a couple things I didn't realize before I started the program with you is that your body will not just have cravings for food, but have cravings for movement and cravings for joyful movement. Look what I did there. That's the name of the thing. Wow.
Yes.
Uh, so yeah, sometimes your body's like, get up, let's go for a walk. And now that that's not motivated by a negative thing of get up and go for a walk because you need to lose weight because you're too fat.
Yeah.
Um, and just it's motivated by, hey, you know, it'd be really fun if we went for a walk.
Yeah, that's a big change.
Yeah, like that's really great. Like it's the same kind of thought, but the motivation is different, and it makes a huge difference. So how ironic is it that like there's this little part of your brain that bullies you to lose weight,
Mhm.
and it's counteract like it's worse. It's making you be like, nah, I'm just gonna lay on the couch because it's the one that makes you feel bad and depressed, and then you just lay around.
It's so funny, right?
Yeah.
The brain's telling you, gotta get out, gotta do the thing, gotta try to lose weight. But then the flip side of that is, oh, but I
Yeah.
don't want to.
Yeah, your last episode with Lisa where you talked about should,
Mhm.
that was like a huge realization for me too. It was that, if your chances are, if your brain's saying you should go do this, that you need to stop for a second and
Yeah.
look at that thought, because that's the other thing we've talked about in the program too, is that your brain has so many thoughts that you need to.
Yeah.
So sometimes when your brain says you should be doing this, it's like, well, hold on, stop for a second. What does that mean? Like, why
And what do I
should?
want?
Right? Yeah. Why should we do that? So
Mhm.
um, yeah, so I mean, the gym or running or whatever, maybe that's not for everybody. But if you super enjoy it, then
Mhm.
then yeah, it's great to come from that place of we should do this for the enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
the only thing the only thing my brain tricked me into thinking that was before was eating. It was like, hey, you should go eat because it'll help you feel not sad. You know what I mean?
Uh,
But
so
now, yeah, now, it's neat to be able to have that same thought, but with, "Hey, you should go move. You should go move
Mhm.
because you're good at it." And it's like, wow, I never didn't realize that it was that it could be other than just like a military, instructor who's like, "Get up and march and lose weight," or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just a guy who's like, "Hey, you deserve to go move." So,
Mhm. Mm.
pretty special.
Yeah. And then speaking of food, since you brought it up there about emotional eating, like what's changed as far as your relationship to food?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's definitely gotten better. Hey, I'm still kind of new in the program, everybody. So, like, there's still some pillars we got to work on. But at least I'm a little more aware of the same thing. Sometimes you got to pump the brakes and say, okay, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why are we eating this? Why are we hungry, or are we sad, or are we angry, or whatever? So, just um, to have that kind of uh realization.
Awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awareness
Yeah.
is good. I remember, I was told you this before in coaching, is that one of my like biggest happiest moments of when I was skinny Joe. There was a lot of like suck things that I blocked out that were not good about being skinny Joe. But one of the things I remember was looking at a vending machine and being like, no, I'm not. I don't really want any of those. I'm not hungry. Um, and that was a goal of mine, to be like, I don't really need that. Maybe I don't actually want that. So before there was no like, there was just kind of this blurry. I couldn't tell what I
Mhm.
wanted and what I didn't. So now to be able to be like, eat it because I feel like it, or
Right.
or don't, like, to have it as a, instead of this villainous thing, like you can't have this or you can't eat that, right? So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Instead of living by a set of rules or whatever,
Mhm.
again, connecting to your body
Mhm.
and listening and trusting that when you're hungry, you can eat and
Yeah.
that what you're desiring, you can have.
Yeah, as I said, to have the awareness of, are you just bored, or or are you
Mhm,
actually hungry? Let's stop and look at this for a
mhm,
moment, and then
mhm.
realize, actually, yeah, I am kind of hungry. Okay, let's do it. Let's eat that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that was when I was, first diagnosed with the type 1 too, as well. As it was tricky because it's like, okay, you can only eat this, if your blood sugars are low, and you can
Uh-huh.
only eat this. And so you're kind of forced to, I guess, villainize certain foods,
Yeah.
or save them for, you can't have an apple when that's ridiculous. You can have an apple whenever you want. Anybody can.
Mhm.
So yeah, to kind of, that's another big goal that's
Yeah.
we're really working on, and I think has really kind of shrunk in my brain, is the control that food has
Yeah.
over people, and to realize that maybe it's not as aggressive as I thought it was too. Like, I really thought that food, like, I was like, there's nothing I can do. Food's got me. I got to do what food
Mhm,
says.
mhm,
But
mhm.
to realize, like, no, I get to pick. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Like you say, work in progress, though. A lot of small changes already. So
yeah,
that's exciting. That's
yeah, for
exciting.
sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
How'd we do? Did I talk too long?
I don't think so. I think we're right on time, but we will wrap up. Is there any parting thoughts you have for our listeners before we sign off for today?
Yeah, like, I mean, yeah, if you're like me and you're kind of, struggling, you're not sure where to go, certainly contact Kim. Or, I mean, you can always contact me too. I mean, I'm not like, I think before your program, I was really like, I kind of felt reluctant or not deserving to give advice on,
Mm,
because I thought people were like, well, what does he know? He's a fat dude. He can't tell me how to eat or how to think or whatever. And really now realizing nobody can, like, you have to know
mm.
how. So, yeah, you could reach out to me if you ever feel whatever, or Kim is a great resource for sure. So, um, so enjoy the trip, and don't worry about what the bus looks like.
Right.
It's
Enjoy
not.
enjoy the bus you're in. Enjoy
That's right.
Hawaii
That's
in
right.
the bus you're in.
That's right. Yeah, it's about looking out the windows and enjoying the view. Your body is a vehicle to take you through life. I can still pick up Henry, even though he's getting bigger. He's almost 9. I can still pick him up, and it's so that he can put the star on the top of the Christmas tree. So,
Aw.
yeah. So, yeah, if there's people out there that are kind of like me, then, yeah, certainly reach out to somebody, because, yeah, I
It
think it'll.
doesn't have to be that way, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah.
This was very valuable, and I know that it'll really land with our listeners. So I really want to thank you for taking the time and to congratulate you on all the great work that you've done and how far you've come. It's
Yeah.
been
Thank you. Yeah.
inspiring to watch.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the help, because it definitely, as we talked about even in this, is that it sometimes, sometimes just bringing stuff to light and being like, wow, that is ridiculous that I have this thought. Yeah, it's pretty special. So yeah, thanks for having me on, and like I said, thanks for the listeners for giving me the opportunity. So
Okay,
appreciate it.
no problem. Thanks for being here.